We praise you and we thank you and we bless your holy name.
Hi, I'm Father Basil Calderoni, pastor of St. John's Orthodox Christian Church here in Post Falls, Idaho. Now, if you're like most people in our postmodern culture today, you're probably pretty unfamiliar with Orthodox Christianity. Most people here in America tend to think of Christianity in one of two forms, either Catholic or Protestant. You might be surprised to know, however, that the second largest unified body of Christians throughout the world today is the Orthodox Church. While Orthodox Christianity has only been in North America since about the early 1800s, the Orthodox Church actually goes all the way back to Pentecost, to the Apostles, and to Christ himself. While many Christians are pretty familiar with the Protestant Reformation of the 16th century, when you trace history back a bit further, you may be surprised that the Reformers' break with Rome was not the first schism in the Church. In fact, it was the Church under the Bishop of Rome that slowly began to drift away from the rest of the Church in the East by introducing changes in doctrine and in practice during the latter part of the first millennium. Contrary to what many assume, the Church was united in belief and practice for nearly 1,000 years. It was during those first few centuries when the martyrs stood firm and died for the faith of the apostles, despite the best efforts of the pagan world to quench the fire that had begun at Pentecost. When the physical persecutions finally ended, the Church gathered in councils during the 4th through the 8th centuries to clarify which books and which letters the Church recognized as Scripture, and to defeat an onslaught of heretical teachings by clearly articulating the apostolic doctrines which had been handed down from the beginning, many of which we take for granted today, including the Trinity, the Incarnation, and the two natures of Christ. After the fall of Rome and the resulting geographic separation from the Church in the East, the bishops of Rome gradually began to view themselves as having greater authority, and tragically began making changes to the faith that were not in agreement with what the Church had always believed, going back to the apostles. It was this very sad and difficult situation that ultimately led to the Great Schism between the Eastern Church and Rome in 1054. While the Western Church under the Bishop of Rome headed off in its own direction and ultimately fractured into the many branches of Protestant and Catholic churches in the West about 500 years later, the Church in the East under the bishops of Constantinople, Alexandria, Jerusalem, and Antioch continued on as the Eastern Orthodox Church, unified together in communion and doctrine, holding firmly, often at great cost, to the apostolic faith. This Church, united in communion, faith, in doctrine, and in worship across the centuries and throughout the world, holding fast to that faith once and for all delivered to the saints, is the Orthodox Church. If you're looking for a deeper encounter with the living God and a connection with the early Church, we would love to have you come and experience the fullness of Christ-centered worship in this ancient Christian faith with us. Please feel free to read more using the links on our website, or better yet, come and experience Orthodox Christian worship for yourself.